Hi y'all, welcome to my shop. Got a fun project for you today. We're going to be turning this cute little pull toy I made for my younger granddaughter Poet. Easily made on a mini lathe. It does not really require a scroll chuck and only modest skills. I won't take credit for this idea. This idea I got from Richard Raffin's book, Turning Toys. He's my favorite author. I think I've got as many as 8 or 9 of his books in my library. Let's look at the wood we're going to need for this project. Okay, here are the pieces of wood we're going to be using for this project. For the wheels, we're going to be using a piece that's almost 3 inches square. We got a piece for the axle, about 3/8 inch square and about 5 inches long. I happen to have these little knobs. You can turn one if you didn't have them, but I had it on hand. Got a little small piece for an accent bead. Got a piece using a piece of walnut for the tail, using a piece of cherry for the body. This is about 2 3/8 inch square by 4 inches long, and then I've got a little small piece of ornamental cherry that we're going to use for a little accent bead on the bottom. Okay, we're going to start with a piece of wood a little more than 2 inches square, about 2 1/4 inches and about 4 inches long, and we're going to drill a hole. I've already marked centers, so we're going to drill a through hole. We'll drill in one side and turn it over and drill on the other. A drill press makes the drilling the holes easier, but not a necessity. And you could certainly do this with a hand drill and be just as successful. Now this is one of the trickier parts of this project, and I'm going to try to explain it, but I think if you stop and think about it, you can probably figure it out. But the bottom line is the axle that goes through here does not go through the center line, otherwise it would interfere with the cord and either block, the cord would block it or it would rub on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a center line through the hole, extend that to the side, and then we're going to make sure that the sides, both sides, are parallel to that line. Either you can mark it and cut it on a bandsaw if it's not exactly parallel, or you can bring it up to the sander, which the belt sander, which is what I did. Then once you've got it square, then you've got a side you can rest it on. Then you're going to take a line below this hole, just adjacent to the hole. Mark that on both sides, connect it here. Now that means the axle hole's got to be completely south of this line. Now these wheels are 75 millimeter in diameter and about 2 3/4 or 2.5 inches, I think. So I'm going to mark the axle hole about half that distance. I don't want the wheel to protrude in front of the pull toy. So that means here's the center line of that that crossed that axle. That axle hole has got to be completely below that line. I'm going to drill that hole at 5/16 of an inch, and we'll probably use an axle just a shade bigger than 1/4 inch, and then size 1/4 inch on each side to match a 1/4 inch hole we're going to drill into the wheels. Okay, we're going to get ready to turn this. I made a blooper. I went ahead and started turning this before I explained to you about how to mark it, and I had to start all over again. So we're using a piece of Bradford pear instead of that cherry. Got a little bit of crack on this blank, but it doesn't extend too far. This is going to be the head, this is going to be the tail, and therefore we'll turn that away, so it won't be a problem. So first thing we're going to do is turn it around with a spindle roughing gouge. Anchor the tool, ride the bevel, and then guide the tool. It is so important to ride that bevel. I don't know how many people that want to come in like this, straight up, and get a bunch of chips and scrape that wood. You want to just ride that bevel. Okay, we got it round. I'm beginning the taper on the body, and we're just going to round the head over a little bit toward the front. And because of this larger drive center, it's hard for me to get into the front of the head, so I'm going to reverse this. Still got a little bit of a flat spot there, which would probably be hid by the wheels. So I'm not going to get too concerned about it. But now I'm going to start rounding over the front of this to kind of a big bead, anchor, bevel. Now remember, when you turn a big bead, you're going to anchor, you're going to start, you're cutting on the very front edge, then you're going to lift the handle, rotate it, and then swing the handle. Lift, rotate, and swing. Three-part movement requires a lot of practice. And it's a fundamental cut in almost all aspects of wood turning. So don't feel bad about practicing it some. It's a great idea. And I think that's pretty well got it. Clean up a little bit of the tool marks there. Actually, sanding will probably take care of that. Okay, I'll sand that up and that piece will be done. Okay, we're going to reverse this one more time. I forgot that we need to put a chamfer at the very end. When you start stringing it together, it'll become obvious. But we want the wheelie to be able to pivot its tail, so we need to have a little bit of clearance here. So we're just going to make a little chamfer cut, and I'm going to do that with a spindle gouge. Just about a 45-degree cut from about there. That takes care of that. Okay, we're going to reverse this one more time. I forgot that we need to put a chamfer at the very end. When you start stringing it together, it'll become obvious. But we want the wheelie to be able to pivot its tail, so we need to have a little bit of clearance here. So we're just going to make a little chamfer cut, and I'm going to do that with a spindle gouge. Just about a 45-degree cut from about there. That takes care of that. Okay, anybody notice what I did wrong? I forgot to drill a hole before I went ahead and turned it. So I put it on the drill press. I scribed a line which I hoped was roughly parallel on both sides. And then I had to try to line this up with a clamp. I can see sight down here, and I can tell I didn't cut through the center hole, so that's good. So it may not be perfectly square, so it may the axle may rub a little bit when it moves. We'll see. Okay, now we're going to turn the wheels. I've got these squares. These are a little bit larger in diameter than the body. They don't have to be, but I think they'll work out well that way. I've got the centers marked. Punch them in the hole. Turn it between centers. Again, I'm going to use this cone chuck. And again, if you don't have a cone chuck, you can make one out of wood. Turn it, make sure it's going to clear. Now we could turn this. Grain is running this way, so it's a spindle orientation. So this is a face grain on each side. We could rough this out with a spindle roughing gouge, but frankly the fastest way is to take a light peeling cut with part of the lathe. So let me show you. You just anchor it, just ease up a little bit, down, a little bit. Okay, now it's round. Now a little trick I want to show you. I've got to turn it around a little bit more. To get these profiles to match, I made this little template by drilling a 1-inch hole into a little thin piece of wood and cutting it off. But you know, I had a commercial template I could use just as well, but I did want to show you this little trick because you do want both wheels to have the same shape to them. So now I can adjust this up a little bit. And finish rounding it off. Now it's round. Now we're simply going to start rounding it over. Now, you can leave them a very basic profile like this, in which case you wouldn't have to be quite as careful about rounding over the edges. But we're going to turn it round, and to visually help me, I'm going to kind of mark what the center of this essentially big bead is. And then I'm going to take a 3/8 inch spindle gouge and just round it over. Don't take away the part in the middle. Anchor the tool. Here's the bevel. Lift the handle till you engage the wood. Lift, swing, and roll. Now we go to the other side. Anchor. Ride the bevel. I think we're probably going to call that good. I'll go ahead and sand that off the lathe, and we'll do the other wheel the same way. Okay, now we're going to turn a series of beads for the tail. Fastest way to get it around, just use a skew. Take a planing cut a little bit at a time. Use the long point, knock off the end. And come back and just round it over. And just hit that a little sandpaper. Now we're going to turn this little detail ring for the near the end of the tail. I didn't get the hole drilled off center, but no matter. We're going to get it around. Just shake this a little bit. And we'll sand that up just a bit. Okay, we finished all the beads. The only thing left is turning this axle. You want to cut your square just a little bit bigger, and take very light cuts. This will splinter it if we press too hard. High speed. And then we're going to take very light cuts. wrench caliper to kind of check it. That looks good. Now we'll go ahead and sand this up just a little bit, make it nice and polished, and even put a little wax on it. Keep in mind, the reason we make these, we can do a better job making a dowel than you can buy one. If you buy one, it's going to be cut in a way that it's going to be probably oval and won't do real well. So these aren't that hard to turn. Don't press them down too tight, and you can see how you support it with your hand when you're using a skew, and a skew works better than just about anything for this kind of long straight cut. And then just, you know, do a little sanding, high speed. Okay, we got it where it fits on there smooth and not a lot of play. And I'm going to take this to make it even smoother. I'm going to actually buff this and put some Canuba wax on it. And I'm going to put it back on the lathe, and I'm going to take it down to 1/4 of an inch to fit the holes, the stopped holes that I did in each wheel. This was a fun project, and I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I do. I know a little guy that I think's really going to enjoy this. If you like the project, click on the like button, give it 2 thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. If you're into social media and you know somebody you can share this video with, that'll help me out if you do that. Y'all come back here.